help at some very high levels. Alabama is in this bizarre situation right now. I don't think I've ever seen another state in a situation like this, but the head of the legislative branch, the head of the executive branch, and the head of the judicial branch are all in super deep water all at the same time. The Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court has been removed from the bench for ethics concerns. The Speaker of the House in Alabama, not the past Speaker of the House, not some guy who used to be in the legislature, but the guy who is currently Speaker of the House, he's on trial as of this week on 23 felony corruption charges. Yesterday, there were opening statements in that trial. It was reportedly a packed house, a who's who of Alabama politics, all turned out to go see the Speaker of the House on trial. One of the things they got to see was the Speaker's defense lawyer giving his opening remarks in the trial while, quote, occasionally reading from notes scribbled on a napkin. So apparently that's going to be a fun trial. And now, in terms of the guy who's in charge of the executive branch, well, now the Birmingham News has broken what appears to be pretty big news about the potential criminal prosecution of Alabama's Republican governor, Robert Bentley, over possible abuse of state resources following his alleged affair with a woman who was his top aide at the time. The Birmingham News is reporting today that a grand jury investigation is now underway for Governor Bentley. We had known previously, or at least it had previously been reported, that the FBI and other federal authorities were investigating the governor. But this grand jury thing, this appears to be a new phase in that process. The Birmingham News obtained a letter sent to the lawyer of an individual who has been questioned by the FBI regarding the Robert Bentley affair. That letter was written under the subject line, Grand Jury Investigation. So I guess that means there's a grand jury investigation. This is how we're learning it. Does the grand jury's investigation mean that new information will come to light in this case? What exactly would a grand jury be looking for? Does this mean that we're closer to a potential indictment for Alabama Governor Robert Bentley? If he is indicted, does he stay governor? Speaker of the House stayed Speaker of the House once he was indicted. Joining us now is the reporter who first broke this story about the grand jury investigation, John Archibald. He's a columnist for the Birmingham News. Mr. Archibald, it's nice to see you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks, Rachel. Appreciate it.
So we had seen reports of a federal investigation, at least one, alongside the state investigations that we know about. How much further does it tell us about the kind of hot water that Robert Bentley's in to know that a grand jury's investigating?
I think it tells us a lot, and it has to make him a little bit nervous as well. We've talked to people who have been interviewed by the FBI, by the Postal Service, by the IRS, by the Attorney General's office, by the Ethics Commission. But seeing that actual grand jury is taking place is important. And it's also important that we learned of it when the U.S. Attorney for the Middle District here was announcing his own recusal. Oh. And that's important because he is pretty close to the governor's lawyer. So it makes a lot of people who want to see justice done feel a little better about that matter. With
that U.S. attorney being recused from this case, presumably because of that kind of potential involvement with some of the players here, the Justice Department has assigned a different U.S. attorney from out of state to be involved in this case instead. Do you have any sense of what that might mean, or any sense of the reputation of that U.S. attorney?
You know, I don't know that U.S. attorney, and I take that as a pretty good sign because none of the players that I've talked to have a clue about him, which seems to mean he's not very well known here, which we can only take as a good sign.
Part of what has been remarkable watching this from a national perspective is how intertwined all these scandals are. You know, imagining Robert Bentley replacing the Chief Justice who's been pushed off the bench, who might end up hearing an appeal if the Speaker of the House is indicted, who might call the governor as a witness. I mean, the intermingling of all of these scandals can be confusing, but mostly it's just remarkable. I wonder, John, if there is a sense of crisis in the state to have everything falling down in this way at the same time.
Well, there is, in a sense. We kind of call that a target-rich environment around here, I think. But there is that sense, but there's also a real fatigue with it. I mean, a lot of people have just kind of turned off, particularly from the Speaker of the House matter, and throwing their hands up and saying, what can we do? And like you said earlier, somebody run.
If the last question for you, John, if the governor were indicted by this grand jury, would he have to resign? Would you expect him to resign if he didn't have to?
Yes, I would expect him to resign if he's indicted on a felony charge, yes.
John Archibald, columnist with the Birmingham News, guy who's had a bunch of scoops in this story and has been very kind to help us understand him here. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Situation in Alabama right now, almost unbelievable. All three branches of government all blowing up at the same time, all from the top. Stay with us.